So we're heading to the track now for this segment of the SportsMax Zone. On a Friday, the 2025 edition of the World Relay shoots off on Saturday. That's tomorrow in the Chinese city of Guangzhou. And Jamaica will be the lone English-speaking Caribbean nation at the two-day championship after Trinidad and Tobago and the Bahamas revealed that difficulties assembling quality teams forced their non-participation. Jamaica has also had issues leading up to the event, with Akeem Blake withdrawing from the team after suffering an injury in the Miami leg of the Grand Slam track series last week. With a deadline for a team submission having already passed, no replacement could be named for the sprinter. Now, there is still much to be excited for from a Jamaican perspective, as they have landed in Guangzhou with three-time Olympic gold medalist Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce and reigning world 200-meter champion Shericka Jackson to contest the women's and mixed 4x100-meter events. Other members of the mixed and men's 4x1 pool include second fastest man alive Johan Blake and Olympic 100-meter silver medalist Kishane Thompson. Meanwhile, national record holder Roisin McDonald will lead the men's 4x400-meter team, but two global championship relay medalists, Stacey-Ann Williams and Shan Salmon, did not make the trip to China. Now, the top 14 teams in each of the men's and women's 4x1 and 4x4, plus those mixed 4x4 relays, will secure their place at the 2025 World Athletic Championship set for Tokyo in September. We are now joined by track and field analyst and editor at SportsMax.tv, Leighton Levy. I'll call him Double L as we look ahead to the action. Leighton, the last time the Jamaicans were at the World Relays, things didn't go very well for them, but there is an expectation this time, based on the quality of the team assembled, that things could be better this time.
Yeah, I think that should be. I think when you look at the teams that have been assembled on the women's side, certainly for the 4x1s, which is where a lot of Jamaicans will be keeping their focus, I think, based on their interests generally. I think this is probably the strongest team that Jamaica could have probably assembled, notwithstanding the absence of Elaine Thompson-Herah, who has not run for more than a year now. I really don't know what to expect from her, even if she was available. What we've seen from the current members of the team is that the Clayton sisters have been gradually getting faster all season. Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce opened with a win at 10.94. Serena Cole has run a few races and it's somewhere in the 11.3s, 11.2s range. And of course, Crystal Slowly, who's been consistently in that range as well. So I think on the women's side, certainly things look good for the 4x1. On the men's side, I think the absence of oblique is not there. Seville is not there. But Akeem Blake's absence, I think, will impact this team. Just how much will depend on how the rest of them plan to step up. Of course, we've seen what Kishane Thompson run this season, 9.99. We've seen some of the other guys who have been running consistently within like the 10.1s to 10.3 ranges. So I think the team is strong enough to qualify. And on the 4x4s, I think Jamaica's men are up. I mean, there are several people absent: DeAndre Watkin, Sean Bailey, of course, Javon Powell, and a number of others. But I think this team should finish within the 14 that will be able to qualify. On the women's side, of course, Nikisha Prices and a couple others are not there as well. But when you look at the squad itself, it's Malik James King and Roisin McDonald, Tyrese Roden, who is more known as an 800-meter runner, Demar Francis, and Zandrian Barnes, who opened with a 44.98 earlier this season. I think this team should acquit itself well. Just how well will depend on how strong the other countries are, because the USA hasn't sent their strongest team. Neither the Great Britain and, of course, the Canadians are there as well. But it's not just them alone that we have Jamaica has to pay attention to now. It's several other countries. Japan, Botswana has their own issues. But when you look at the team overall, I think it's a strong enough team to get the job done in what is required.
Yeah, maybe the only concern for me, Leighton, is with the women's 4x400 and potentially the mixed 4x4. So, of course, we look at the squad. Well, certainly I've learned in the last 48 hours that both Stacey-Ann Williams and Shine Salmon have withdrawn from the team. Well,
team.
they are not in China. Let me put it that way. Let me be very careful that they are not in China. So that squad is without them, which leaves the women's 4x4 squad a very inexperienced one. Shanake Anderson, who I think has tremendous talent and will break out this season, but I'm not sure how far along the breakout line she is going into the World Relays. Kellyanne Beckford, who is more known as an 800 runner. Renisha McGregor, who is just outside 50 seconds as her lifetime best, but that was a long time ago. She hasn't been at her best for a number of years now. Rhonda White has struggled as well, who is more of a hurdler. Jodine Williams, who is more of a 100, 200 runner. So that's the squad that we're working with. And immediately, I am seeing some issues for both the women's 4x4 and the mixed 4x4 as well. How do you suspect that the coaching staff there will manage this, Leighton? Because remember, we're talking about World Championship qualifying here, and there are essentially two opportunities to qualify. You either be in the top two in your first round heat, or you're in the top two the next day when you get a second opportunity.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Ricardo. The reality is that the squad is now, there isn't much room to maneuver, actually, when you look at what the squad, what's left of the squad. Because as you rightly characterized, who is there. One of the things that I will say, though, is that Renisha McGregor has been showing some improvement so far this season, as well as Antoinette Knight. I think when you look at both of their performances in the Grand Slam so far, well, not Renisha, but certainly Antoinette Knight, but she's only one person on the leg that's a four-legged relay. So, yeah, there is an issue with depth, and there's also an issue with the ability to maneuver in terms of who you will then put into the mixed relays. I see Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce down as a member of the mixed relays, but even though my understanding is that her primary responsibilities will be for the 4x1. But Nisha Berger has run well for the mixed relays. As you know, I'm speaking about the mixed relays now, and Nisha Berger has run consistently.
4x1.
Yeah, mixed 4x1 I'm talking about here. Yeah. But the 4x4 though, it's going to be touch and go, Ricardo. I have to admit that, especially without two of those leads. In fact, without a number of the Jamaican 4x4, the 400-meter women. Of course, we mentioned Nikisha Price already, who has been more focused on the Grand Slam so far this season, and while gradually improving, is not there in China. Yeah. So maybe they'll have to look at another opportunity by which to qualify. Because on the face of it right now, the team is not strong enough. The 4x4 team certainly is not strong enough.
Leighton, let's not forget what happened a year ago. I'm not sure if I missed something, Leighton, but I'm not seeing Antoinette Knight on the list that was released initially by the Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association, so I'm not sure if I missed something there.
Well, I looked at the start list this morning, well, the entry list, and it has Shanake Anderson, Kellyanne Beckford, Antoinette Knight, Renisha McGregor, Rhonda White, Jodine Williams, and of course the two absent athletes, Cheyenne Salmon and Stacey-Ann Williams. So unless something has changed from what I looked at this morning, it would suggest that Antoinette Knight is there or should be there, certainly, even though she ran last weekend in Florida. So and I haven't seen her in any of the images that have emerged from training sessions in China so far. So that is something in the air, but I'm going off based on what I see on the lists.
Well, just remember that you said Stacey-Ann Williams and Cheyenne Salmon were on that list, and they're not there.
And they're not there. That's a good point. I mean, that is true, but those are the two, like you said, and it was an oversight on my part when I began. Yeah. That they were not there. But the reality is that I'm looking at the list with the assumption that Antoinette Knight is also there, and the fact that Renisha McGregor has been looking, but she has been looking better so far this season.
Yeah, here's one quick one, Leighton. Given the relative weakness of the women's 4x400 pool and the strength of the women's 4x100 pool, Nisha Berger has been in fabulous form. Tia and Tina Clayton, Sharika Jackson, Natasha Morrison, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, Alana Reid, Crystal Slowly, all fantastic athletes who can take you through both the mixed 4x1 and the women's 4x100. What are the chances that we could see one SJ, Sharika Jackson, running the 4x400 in China this weekend? Because Jamaica might be that desperate.
Yeah, it might be, but is she ready to run the 4x4? We saw her run up 300 off just a few weeks ago.
And she looked good, didn't she?
Well, she looked good for 300. There's still another 100 to go. But maybe that muscle memory, maybe if it's necessary, and if she's willing to do so, and if Coach Francis is willing to allow her, given the fact that she's coming off injury, Ricardo, are they willing to take that chance?
But remember that her coach, Paul Francis, is also the coach of this team. He is second in command to Mark Elliott, who is the technical leader. So if a decision is to be made, the man who can make it is right there.
Absolutely, which is why I said that it's down to what the coach will decide, whether or not they're going to risk Sharika running the 400s, given her previous experience and previous, well, the muscle memory. I don't know how much muscle memory is left because she hasn't run a 400 competitively in years. So it's maybe a gamble that they might need to take, but whether or not they're willing to take that risk, I think we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think it probably depends on how desperate they are over the next 2 days. Well, we'll be waking up bright and early on Saturday to watch it, Leighton. I think it starts at 6 o'clock Jamaica time. That's 7 in the rest of the Caribbean. I know you'll be up from 5. I'll be up from 4 and wondering why it's taking so long to start. And we'll chat on Monday when it's all done.
Yeah, I'll be up at 3. I'm usually up at 3.
Okay, Leighton, don't text me, please.
Take it easy, guys.
Wow. Up on a break, yeah?
Yep, break time.